Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 26th of June. Now, if you didn't tune into the markets yesterday, Monday, well, you haven't missed a hell of a lot. The Aussie just sort of cruised up through that trend line sort of on Friday. It's now just sort of trading sideways, as is Kiwi. Now, dollar yen still coming back to, it's been pulled and pushed from both sides with this US-China trade dispute. And that's hanging over the whole market. I'll come into that in a minute, but that's a major issue for us. Euro, was trading sideways and is slowly picking up gear. I still think there's a chance to see Euro up at 118.50, more on sort of market positioning. And markets still seem short. Sterling is trying to sort of rally, but it's finding a bit of tough headwind around 133 the figure. But it still does look like there's a bit of a clean out coming on the top side. Now, those trade issues are sort of impacting a few of these currencies. As you can see, dollar CAD, it just does not know what it's doing. Oil, 69 or 68.30. Looks like it's consolidating around there, but dollar CAD is just trading sideways with the odd loose pop out of the range. Now, that's, as I said, now, one of the key things that you're looking at is what's actually driving what. Okay, so when we come back to look at the main news, if I just come across here, you'll see what's going on. And this is where traders are being distracted from what's going on around the market. It's all this trade war sort of rubbish. So if we come back up here and you have a look across the board, it sort of pops up on everything. Now, there's, even within Trump's camp, okay, there's mixed signals in China. They are talking about sort of increasing, stopping companies with more than 25% Chinese interest in buying stakes in US companies. So it's sort of escalating into or morphing into a whole crazy situation. Now, that's going to be a major issue to go forward. Now, looks like there's a few people that think they should be increasing productivity in oil. Funny enough, that hasn't done a lot. Oil's sort of been whipping about a bit, but it hasn't moved too much. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's why dollar CAD is pretty much just trading sideways in a pretty loose range. Dollar weakness, and then they're sort of looking at sterling, saying it's going higher, EU summer night, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, there's not a hell of a lot going on. These trade issues, which I thought, as I mentioned yesterday on Monday, would come into play. This is the last week of the month. It's got the least amount of economic data scheduled, so you need to be aware of that. And usually what happens is the media tries to take over, or even the central bank punters can get in the way of what's going on. Look at the, if you just have a look at the US dollar, just to swing that back, the dollar's just drifting lower. Now, next week we get a whole range of fresh US numbers, and that could really change the picture of the US dollar. But support down here around 93.90, I mean, the dollar is drifting lower. That's probably more so just because Euro's rallying, but it's not doing a hell of a lot, and it's still in an overall daily uptrend. All right, equity markets, yeah, a little bit of a slap in the face there, down 1% yesterday. Well, the Nasdaq down 2%, and you're seeing that reflect in the Asian equities there as well. The Nikkei down, not so much, but still in the red. All right, now what's going on technically? So just basically looking back towards the technical aspect. Let me just come down and go through that first. The technical aspect of the majors is starting to get a bit like a dog's breakfast. Okay, it's all over the shop. Now, dollar CAD has got the clearest technical picture, but the worst fundamental outlook. Okay, so that's a really not a great trading opportunity at all. I'm sort of putting a bit of a line through dollar CAD at the moment until we work out what's going on with oil, until we know what's going on with NAFTA, even the European agreement where the Italians were blowing up last week at the Canadians. So basically, the technical picture is very grey. Now, fundamentally, I still think the US dollar has got great fundamentals, and it should be going higher. Running off the back of the Bank of England last week, sterling still does have an upward bias, a fundamental upward bias, but technically it's looking like a dog's breakfast as well. So, like, the picture at the moment is so far from being really cool. I just want you to understand that. So don't get frustrated if you don't see trading opportunities straight away. Now, coming back up here, as far as the key things that you need to be focusing on over the next 24 hours, well, one thing that's sort of lingering in the market, and without a lack of economic data, it's still sort of hanging there, and that's what the media are going to focus on. That's that US-China trade war, right? So that's going to impact the yen crosses, and, and offshooting that indirectly the majors. But we do start to get some numbers here today. We've got the US consumer confidence numbers, and then at the end of that US session, or the start of the Asia session the next day, we've got NBNZ, or the ANZ business confidence numbers. So that's two key things. Now, just bear in mind, like Wednesday onwards, we start to get more things happening. So don't feel like you have to rush into the markets straight away to sort of get something going. The better trading opportunities and the better setups technically will change over the next couple of days. All right. Now, just coming across here, I just want to give you a look at the, we've looked at the majors, right? Actually, this is one key thing I was going to show you. Is just coming back to the major currency pairs themselves. This is where you start to really adjust your technical levels. Now, just with the Aussie, it has moved higher over the course of that period. Now, you're starting to draw like the new trend lines that are forming, like the new support trend line. Now, this is pretty, really short term, and this is where you can sort of focus and go, well, that's not really support and resistance. If we blow this up, okay, you got one, well, that's a bit of a resistance level, but on the support side, you got two touches, so potentially three. I'll leave that there for the moment, just to give myself something to look at. You can see when you get that sort of wedge formation, it generally means the currencies are trading sideways, and you get a move both ways. Now, drawing a support line from the low to there, that's just not going to work at this point, as far as I can tell. Dollar yen. Now, looking at the dollar yen, it's starting to be like a little bit of a mess. I've got the US 10 years overlaid there. It doesn't make it a hell of a lot easier to see what's going on in the yen, but you can start to see it's sort of trading sideways as well. And for good reason. It's getting shuttered from both sides, from the US and the impacts of those trade tariffs on the rest of the market. It could be hit the euro, could hit anything. So then you're looking at the euro. We still have the start of the formation of a support trend line. We've got resistance up here, so that's still looking okay. Coming back to sterling, once again, the support line is probably coming off that second line. And you've got a bit of a support line there. Now, that's really steep, but, it just gives you something to look at and think, well, okay, that's the only support line we have. Now, dollar CAD doesn't really have anything. I can't really draw trend lines on that puppy at the moment. And that's why I'm sort of giving it a bit of the wide berth. There's so many things going on in the CAD that it just doesn't make sense at this point. But what does make sense, and you always want to keep an eye on it, is the yen crosses. Now, these are starting to form shape, but we do have the lingering geopolitical issue, and that's why they're sort of trading sideways up and down through these trend lines. But still, at the same time, keep going with your drawing of support and resistance, because when we do see things kick into gear, you want to know where the whole Western world's getting in, as well as where the Japanese traders are getting in. And you can see here, these trend lines haven't been going too far. It's just a matter of tweaking the highs and lows, making sure you've got the most frequent levels to be honing in on those important key levels. So even looking at this one here, sterling yen, probably looking at this trend line here, and you know what, I'll give this one back to the major support level over here. That's just through that level. So, and this is the process you should be doing each day. It's actually just tuning up your crosses. So you not only have the cloud sort of formations there, but you also have, your support and resistance levels as well, which the rest of the market's looking at. Now, there were a couple of shutters or crazy little moves, spikes here on the yen crosses. That sort of correlated with the release of the US, what they're going to do with as far as the companies and the trade issues and all sorts of stuff, as well as the US housing numbers coming out a little bit stronger. So that's pretty much where we are with dollar yen. As I said, this is starting to get a little bit loose. We do start to have the formation of new support and resistance trend lines on dollar yen. So you're starting to widen your scope out. You can see where those geopolitical issues are coming into play. Anyway, I just wanted to get you to start to think about the yen crosses as much as the majors. Because in Asia, the yen crosses are the majors. All right, and that's pretty much it, guys. There's not much more to do at this point. Just keep an eye on the upcoming data. As I said, you've got the 12, almost 13 hours to the US consumer confidence numbers. And then from Wednesday, it all starts to pick up. Have a look at the daily analysis snapshot and see if you agree with that. I think it's a bit of a mess at the moment, but that's all we've got to work with. All right, take it easy, relax. There's better trades to come up. If you've got any questions, join us in the 247 Trade Zone. Cheerio.